Okay, so this time you guys sent in something really interesting.
Yeah.
A story told in Chinese about a small village
Mm-hmm.
and all the changes that happen as the economy starts to shift.
Right.
And the way it's all told is through the experiences of the village's young women.
Exactly. It's a really fascinating kind of a glimpse into a much bigger picture.
Yeah, it feels like one of those stories that can tell us so much about these larger societal shifts
Yeah,
just by focusing on the personal level.
absolutely.
So for this deep dive, I think what we really want to understand
Okay.
are the different paths that these women took as all these new economic possibilities started to open up.
Hmm.
What kind of choices did they make?
Right.
What does that tell us about the changes that their whole community was going through?
Exactly. It's like we're using a lens to focus in on these wider transformations.
I like that. So to get us started, why don't we set the scene a little bit?
Okay.
The audio that you sent really paints a stark picture of what this village was like before any of these economic changes started to take hold. There are these descriptions like,
Yeah.
poor mutual avoidance people suffer.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't just that they didn't have a lot of money.
Right.
There seems to have been this really pervasive sense of hardship. Like, it went beyond just the financial.
Yeah, and even the sense of social isolation,
Oh,
which is
total.
really interesting.
Yeah, and then there's this one detail that I just found so incredibly evocative,
Okay.
where it talks about how houses all leak wind.
I know. Such a vivid image.
I know, you can just feel it, right?
Yeah, you can really picture it, right?
Yeah, and it makes you realize that it wasn't just about not having enough money.
Mhm.
It was also about this real lack of basic security and comfortable living conditions.
Right.
You know, like a roof over your head that actually protects you from the elements.
And that context is absolutely crucial
Yes.
for understanding just how eager these young women might have been
Mm-hmm.
to find opportunities outside the village.
Right, because if this is what your life looks like, you're going to be pretty motivated to find something different.
Exactly.
So then things start to change, right?
Yeah.
The economic reforms begin to have a real impact.
Right.
And we start to see the very first signs of people migrating out of the village to find work.
Mm.
And the first person to do this is Xiao Hong.
Okay.
And her success is like remarkably swift.
Right.
It's significant right from the start.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible how quickly things change for her.
I know she starts sending back these pretty substantial sums of money.
Mm-hmm.
First, it's like 1,000, then it jumps up to 2,000.
Wow.
And then within just 3 months, she's sending back 6,000.
That's huge.
Yeah. And, you know, these weren't just like small, insignificant amounts.
Right. Especially in that community.
No, not at all. And what's really interesting is that these remittances were being announced publicly through this system called a huipiao.
Interesting. I'm not familiar with that.
Yeah, so basically it was like this person who would go around the village and announce who had sent money back and how much they had sent.
So it wasn't just like a private thing.
No, it was very much a public display.
Wow. That's really fascinating.
Yeah, and I think that created a really interesting social dynamic
Yeah, I can imagine.
because it wasn't just about sharing the good news with everyone.
Mm-hmm.
It also made Xiao Hong's newfound wealth incredibly visible.
Right.
Like everyone in the village knew exactly how much money she was making.
Yeah, and that kind of public display, it wasn't just about celebrating her individual success.
Right.
It also created this really powerful form of social comparison,
Yes.
almost like a measuring stick.
Exactly. And you know, the story actually tells us that the villagers' eyes turned red with envy.
Oh, wow. So it was a very real and palpable reaction.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't just like a friendly sense of, oh, good for her.
Right. There was definitely some resentment mixed in there.
Yeah, and you can understand why, right?
Totally.
Because here they are struggling to make ends meet. And suddenly there's this one person who's sending back all this money.
It really highlights how these rapidly changing economic fortunes
Mm-hmm.
can disrupt traditional communal structures and create these imbalances.
Absolutely. And that envy, it had a very real-world consequence.
Okay, how so?
By the end of that year, Xiao Hong's family had built a 2-story house.
Wow.
You know, in a village where leaky homes were the norm.
Right.
That's a monumental change.
It's like a symbol of this newfound prosperity.
Yeah, it's like a giant billboard saying, look at how well we're doing.
Exactly. And it's no wonder that the other villagers were intensely curious
Oh, yeah.
about where all this sudden wealth was coming from.
Right. They wanted to know her secret.
Of course.
And it wasn't just idle curiosity.
No.
They actually asked her quite directly.
What did they say?
Things like, what exactly are you doing out there?
Mhm.
How is it possible to earn so much money?
So they were pretty blunt about it.
Yeah, they were really trying to get to the bottom of it.
Makes sense.
But her response is kind of striking.
Oh, how so?
It's super vague.
Really? What did she say?
She just says, "What else could I do? Just working."
Hmm. That's interesting.
Yeah, it's almost dismissive, right?
Right, like she's brushing them off.
Yeah, and it certainly doesn't give them any real insight into what she's actually doing.
So it's like she's deliberately being evasive.
Yeah, and it makes you wonder, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah.
was she intentionally hiding the nature of her work?
Mm.
Or could there be other reasons why she didn't want to share the details?
That's a good question. It definitely raises the possibility of intentional secrecy.
Right.
Like maybe the work itself wasn't something that she felt comfortable talking about openly.
Yeah, like maybe it went against the traditional norms of the village.
Exactly. Or maybe she herself didn't fully understand all the nuances of it,
Oh, that's a good
and
point.
she just wanted to simplify it for the people back home.
Yeah, like what else is there to say?
Right. But either way, it creates this intriguing air of mystery.
It does.
And it definitely plants a seed of unspoken questions in everyone's minds.
Totally. So what happens next?
Well, this lack of a clear explanation, it doesn't deter other people in the village.
Oh, really?
No, not at all.
Hmm.
Pretty soon, more young women decide to follow in Zhao Hong's footsteps.
Like who?
The audio mentions Zhao Rong and Niu specifically,
Okay.
and they experience very similar financial success.
So they're also sending back these large remittances.
Exactly,
Oh.
and it's all being announced in that same public way through the Huipia.
Wow. So now it's not just one person.
No, it's becoming a trend.
Yeah, and the narrator makes a point of pointing out that this time there's a growing sense of unease in the village.
Interesting. What do they say exactly?
The phrase they use is small village people's hearts were unbalanced.
That's really telling.
Yeah, it shows that this second wave of success, it really amplifies the initial impact of Xia Hong's story.
Right, because now it's not just an isolated incident.
Exactly. It's like a pattern is emerging.
Yeah, and I think that introduces a significant shift in the whole village dynamic.
How so?
Well, when it was just Xiao Hong, people might have seen it as an anomaly,
Okay.
like she was just lucky or something.
Right.
But now that multiple young women are achieving these same levels of prosperity,
Yeah.
it suddenly becomes a perceived possibility for others.
I see.
And that really intensifies those feelings of inequality and resentment.
Yeah, it's like it goes from, oh, good for her, to, wait a minute, why are they doing so well and we're not?
Exactly. And it directly leads to that next wave of young women seeking out those same opportunities.
Wow. So it's like a chain reaction.
Yeah. And I imagine all this widespread success,
Mm-hmm.
it probably fueled even more intense curiosity and maybe even a growing sense of suspicion
About what?
about the true nature of this work that they were all doing.
Because it's still shrouded in mystery,
Exactly.
right? And to make matters even more complicated,
Yeah.
these families, they also build new houses by the end of the following year.
So the economic gap within the village is becoming even more obvious.
Yeah, it's like a physical manifestation of the disparity.
Right. And I bet that just added fuel to the fire.
Oh, totally. And so when the villagers ask these new women about their work,
Mm-hmm.
guess what they say?
I bet they give the same vague answer.
You got it. What else can we do? Just working.
It's like a broken record at this time.
I know, right?
Mm.
And that repeated vagueness, it just underscores how little transparency there is
Yeah.
surrounding all this newfound wealth.
Precisely. It's this consistent pattern.
Right.
Significant financial gains.
Yeah.
But a complete refusal to provide any substantial information?
About how they're actually earning that money.
Exactly. And that would naturally lead to even more questions circulating within the village.
Oh, yeah, especially in a close-knit community like that.
Right. It's like a breeding ground for rumors and speculation.
Totally. And then we get to this really significant event,
What's that?
a mass exodus.
Oh, wow.
Almost all of the young women in the village decide to follow Xiao Hong south.
So it's like everyone's jumping on the bandwagon now.
Yeah, it's like the allure of economic opportunity has become so powerful that they all feel like they have to leave in search of a better future.
It's like a whole generation of women leaving the village.
Yeah, and it's at this point that we finally get introduced to a new character,
Huh?
Zhao Lian,
Xiaolian.
and she makes the journey south alongside Xiao Hong.
Okay. So now we're finally going to see what's really going on.
Exactly. We're going to get a much clearer picture of what lies behind that vague answer of just working.
I'm intrigued.
So they arrive in this large southern city,
Mm-hmm.
and the story describes it as bustling with people, a constant stream of traffic.
Wow, that's a huge contrast to the quiet simplicity of their village.
Oh, yeah, it's like they've entered a whole new world.
It's like they've been transported to another planet.
I know, right? And then things take a really unsettling turn.
Okay, what happens?
Xiaohong takes the group to a nightclub.
A nightclub.
Yeah, and the description is pretty vivid.
How so?
It's described as dazzling with wine and lights.
I'm getting a bad feeling about this.
Yeah, and it turns out that bad feeling is justified. So Zhao Lian finds herself being dressed up.
Dressed up.
Yeah, and then she's asked to accompany a southern guest.
A company.
Yeah, and the way this whole encounter is described, it really hints at a type of work that is far removed from any kind of simple labor.
Yeah, that word accompany, it definitely has a transactional element to it.
It does, right?
It suggests that there's something more going on here.
Yeah, and that something more becomes pretty clear in the next part of the story.
What happens?
Well, the southern guest starts to get a little too friendly.
Oh, no.
Yeah, he reaches out to touch her.
That's not good.
No, it's not. And at this point, it's pretty clear that the situation is inappropriate
Right.
and that there's a real potential for exploitation here.
This is definitely not what Xiaolian signed up for.
No, it's not. And her reaction in this moment is one of pure fear and distress.
Oh, wow.
Like, she is clearly deeply uncomfortable and frightened by the guest's advances.
So what does she do?
She escapes to the restroom
Okay.
and just starts crying.
Oh, man. That's so sad.
Yeah, it's a really heartbreaking moment.
Yeah, you can really feel her panic.
Totally, like the realization of what's actually happening is just hitting her full force.
Right. It's this stark and jarring contrast to the image of simple, honest labor that they were all led to believe.
Exactly. And, it really underscores just how significant the cultural and moral gap is.
Between the expectations of work within their village
Yeah.
and the reality of what's being demanded of them in this urban environment.
And what happens next is even more revealing.
Okay.
There's this confrontation between Zhao Lian and Xiao Hong.
Oh, wow. So they have it out.
Yeah, and Xiao Hong is visibly angry at Xiao Lian
Why?
because she thinks that Xiao Lian ruined a good thing.
Interesting. So she's not bothered by the guest's behavior?
No, she seems to have completely accepted it.
Wow.
Yeah, and she offers this very pragmatic but also quite harsh perspective.
What does she say?
She asks, how else would people give you money for nothing?
So she's basically acknowledging that the financial rewards
Yeah.
are directly linked to these personal interactions.
Exactly. And we also learn that the other women, they just go back to work with other guests.
Wow. So they're all okay with this.
It seems that way. Yeah.
So it's like they've either come to terms with this reality
Yeah.
or they feel like they have no other choice.
Right. Like they're trapped.
Exactly. But Xiaolian,
Yeah.
she makes a very different decision.
Tell me about it.
She's completely resolute.
Mm-hmm.
She says, I would rather die than do this kind of work.
Wow. That's a powerful statement.
It really is. It shows just how strong her personal values are
Yeah.
and what her boundaries are.
And that she's not willing to compromise on them.
Exactly. Even when faced with the prospect of serious financial hardship.
Right. Because she could have made a lot of money.
Yeah, but for her, maintaining her dignity and having a clear conscience,
Mm-hmm.
those were more important than any amount of money.
Absolutely. And so she decides to go back to the village.
Okay.
And you can imagine how that goes over.
I bet they don't understand.
Not at all. They're completely confused.
Right, like, why would you come back? You were making so much money.
Exactly. And they just bombard her with questions.
They just can't comprehend why she would willingly walk away from such a lucrative opportunity.
Yeah, their perspective seems to be entirely focused on the financial gain.
Right, and I think that really reflects the powerful allure of economic success.
Especially in a community that has known such poverty for so long.
Exactly. They're so used to struggling
Yeah.
that they can't imagine why anyone would turn down a chance to escape that.
And so how does Zhao Lian respond to all their questions?
Well, she doesn't hold back.
Okay.
She's very direct.
What does she say?
She tells them that the money was not clean.
Wow, so she's calling them out.
Yeah, and then she goes even further.
What does she say?
She suggests that the other women weren't just working.
Mm-hmm.
She accuses them of being involved in sanpei.
Sanpei.
Yeah, and the audio doesn't actually explain what that means.
So it's left deliberately ambiguous.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But based on Xiaolian's reaction and the events that follow,
Yeah.
it's pretty clear that it refers to something illicit or morally questionable.
Like, it goes beyond just simple, honest labor.
Right, and I think that lack of a clear definition is really significant.
How so?
Well, it forces us as listeners
Mm-hmm.
to grapple with the implications.
Based on what we know about Xiaolian and how she's reacted to everything.
Exactly, and it also allows the story to maintain a certain level of ambiguity,
Right.
which I think is really effective.
So what's the village's reaction to all of this?
Well, it's not good.
Okay.
I don't take it well at all.
What do they do?
They turn on Xiaolian.
Oh, wow.
It's a really swift and harsh reaction.
And even violent.
Yeah, someone actually slaps her,
Oh my
and
gosh.
she becomes the target of all this verbal abuse.
So she's basically ostracized from the community
Yeah, her life in the village becomes unbearable.
because of what she said.
Exactly, because of her accusations.
That's really disturbing.
It is. It really underscores just how powerful the community's reaction is.
Yeah. What do you think is driving that reaction?
Well, it could be a number of things.
Like what?
Maybe they just don't believe her.
Okay.
They refuse to accept that these opportunities could involve anything other than straightforward labor.
Right.
Or maybe it's something deeper.
Okay.
Maybe they're afraid of what her accusations might mean.
For the village.
Yeah, for the reputation of their community.
Right, because now there's this taint on their newfound prosperity.
Exactly. And there's also the possibility that they're worried about repercussions.
For the women who are still working in the South.
Right. Like, what if the authorities find out and crack down?
Yeah, that's a scary thought.
It is. So it's a really complex situation.
Yeah, with a lot of different factors at play.
Exactly. And it leaves you with a lot to think about.
It does. So what happens to Xiaolian after she's ostracized?
Well, she ends up leaving the village again.
Okay.
But this time she chooses a very different path.
Tell me about it.
She finds work in a factory.
Okay, so she's still trying to make a better life for herself.
Yeah, but she's doing it on her own terms now.
Right.
And the story makes a point of highlighting the fact that the work is really hard,
Okay.
long hours,
Mm-hmm.
and the pay is much lower.
Than what she could have been making in the South.
Exactly. But here's the key.
Yeah.
The narrator tells us that her heart was very calm.
Wow. That's really powerful.
It is, right?
Yeah.
It really shows that for Xiaolian,
Mm-hmm.
peace of mind and staying true to her values,
Yeah.
those were more important than any amount of money.
It's like she found a different kind of wealth
Exactly. And it really sets her apart from the other women.
who prioritize the financial gain.
Right. And so as the year comes to an end,
Mm-hmm.
we see this really stark contrast emerging.
Okay, tell me about it.
The families of the other young women,
Yeah.
they all have new houses now.
Symbols of their success.
Exactly. These tangible signs of their economic prosperity.
But Xiaolian,
She doesn't go back home for the holidays.
she stays at the factory.
Yeah, she's working through the holiday season.
So even though she's sacrificing time with her family,
Mm-hmm.
she's sticking to her principles.
Exactly. It's like she's chosen a different path,
Yeah, a more difficult path.
but one that she could live with.
And what's the village's reaction to her absence?
Well, the other women are pretty judgmental.
What do they say?
They say that she has no face to return.
Wow, that's harsh.
Yeah. And they also say that she was born to suffer poverty.
Like it's her destiny.
Exactly. And their judgment, it just seems so incredibly harsh and unforgiving.
Yeah, I mean, can you blame them?
Well, from their perspective,
Yeah,
they see Xiaolian as having rejected opportunity.
right. Like she could have been one of them.
Yeah. But instead, she chose to go back to hardship.
Yeah.
And they don't seem to understand or even acknowledge her moral convictions.
It's like they can't see beyond the money.
Right? They're so focused on their own success
Yeah.
that they can't see the value in her choices.
So we have these two incredibly different trajectories unfolding.
Yeah. It's amazing how the story manages to capture that contrast.
I know, right? On the one hand,
Mm-hmm.
you have this path that leads to apparent financial success,
Yeah.
but it raises all these serious ethical questions.
About the nature of the work and the potential for exploitation.
Exactly. And then on the other hand,
You have Xiaolian's path
yeah, which prioritizes personal integrity.
and leads to a much harder life.
Yeah.
But at least she has peace of mind.
Right. It's like she's chosen a different kind of wealth.
Absolutely. And I think this story, it provides such a compelling glimpse
Into what?
into the challenges that can arise during periods of rapid economic change.
Yeah, like when a society is going through these huge transformations.
Exactly. And it shows how those changes can impact individuals in really different ways.
And it also forces us to think about what really matters.
Mm-hmm. Like, what are our priorities?
Yeah. How do we define success?
And what are we willing to sacrifice to achieve it?
It's a lot to ponder.
It is. So I have a question for you, the listener. What did you make of the villagers' reaction to Xiaolian's accusations?
Yeah.
Do you think it was just disbelief?
Like they couldn't fathom that those opportunities involved something shady.
Exactly. Or was there maybe a deeper fear?
Of what her accusations might mean for their own prosperity.
Right, or for the reputation of their community.
It's a question that really makes you think about all the pressures and social dynamics
Yeah.
that were at play within that small village.
It's a really fascinating story with so many layers to unpack.
It is, and it definitely leaves you with a lot to consider.
Absolutely.
Thanks for sending it in.
Yeah, this is a good one.
We'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.